Good afternoon. It's Thursday, September 24th. Thursdays in Black, a time for reflection. Our Wednesday evening Bible study is using Zoom as our platform for a study of the Ten Commandments. It's been quite an experience for us, or for me at least. Not the Zoom part, that's become old habit, but rather the commandment study itself. Like most Lutherans, I learned the Ten Commandments when I was in Sunday school. We were required to memorize them at some point, and then the meanings of the commandments when I got into the confirmation years. And then I just went on cruise control. I knew them from 7th grade on. I was smart. I knew all 10 of them. I knew that the first 3 were our relationship with God, and the second 7 were our relation with others. And who didn't know that, I thought? Well, then I was assigned to teach confirmation class when I was on internship. And I discovered that over those 10 plus years, the commandments had changed slightly. They were much easier. Words had been removed. For example, the first commandment that as I memorized it was, I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods before me. My 7th graders were memorizing it as, I am the Lord your God. Or the 4th commandment, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land which the Lord your God gives you. Not these kids. Those kids in Baton Rouge were memorizing the commandment as simply, honor your father and your mother. Those kids those days, they couldn't remember more words? Please. And then came the meanings of the the numberings rather of the commandments. I thought everybody knew how the commandments were numbered, how the 10 were divided up. And I assumed that because everybody I knew them the way I knew them. It wasn't until I was in a Bible study with a bunch of pastors in Omaha, we gathered every Tuesday morning. And I said something one day about how one of my high school kids was not doing very well on that 4th commandment, honoring your father and your mother. When a Presbyterian pastor said, wait a minute, no, 4th commandment is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And I said, what? And then we learned how each one of our traditions numbered things differently. There was a commandment in there about graven images that we in the Lutheran Church didn't have. We just made an assumption that it was part of number 1. Well, back to the current study. One of the great connections that our author of the study is making with all these commandments is the wording of the commandments in either the book of Exodus or Deuteronomy, 2 of the Old Testament books. Now, I knew where the commandments were written, and I suspect most people did too. I don't know that I necessarily knew what chapter and verses, and I don't know that other people did either. But I discovered that sometimes those Exodus and Deuteronomy verses had different wordings, and sometimes they're rather significantly different. For example, a week ago, our study focused on the 3rd commandment, what I know is the 3rd commandment, what we know is the 3rd commandment. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. As we read both Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5, we discovered way more words than perhaps any of us had recalled. In both of those accounts, there is an explanation of no work on why we keep the Sabbath, and no work for ourselves, our servants, our livestock, or the resident alien within our community. It's all about resting and recreating. Not a single word about worship and going to church. I was stopped in my tracks as I read that again. No work for anyone on the Sabbath, including the alien resident in my town. It really becomes a social issue at that point. Resting for everyone is important. Everyone needs that downtime. Why? Well, according to both of the books, because God created in 6 days and then rested. Well, the 6 days piece for us is a theological statement. And we're told to do the same. Work 6 days and rest on the 7th. In the Deuteronomy account, it's even more pointed. There, the author of Deuteronomy connects the time the people were slaves in Egypt and how God brought them out of slavery into the freedom of the promised land and said, "You will not be slaves ever again." We shouldn't enslave anyone. That's why we have a day of Sabbath. No one is to be enslaved. You might want to think about that the next time you run through the Ten Commandments. Sabbath is that time of renewal. Sabbath is the time of refreshing. Sabbath is for all of us, not just some of us. And last night we tackled the fourth commandment. That's the one to honor your father and your mother. Now, I grew up understanding that as a child. Again, I memorized it in Sunday school and then memorized the meaning, as Luther described it, in confirmation class. I admit I didn't always know exactly how we were supposed to honor my parents. After all, as I got to be that confirmand, those old fuddy-duddies were not letting me get my driver's license when I turned 16. In high school, they were oppressive to me by not letting me stay out late on the weekends. Had to be home by 9:30 or 10 o'clock or something silly like that. Or go on dates when all of my friends were dating before I was allowed to. I mean, how can you honor them when they're too old to know what it's like to be a teenager? I guess they must have just passed right through those years. And they went from 12 to 20. I was, after all, required to memorize those words from Luther. And it said that I was not to despise or displease my parents or others in authority, and also to honor, obey, and serve them. Well, the author of our material caused me to rethink some of my long-held understandings when I read that the commandments were given not to kids, but they were given to adults. That suddenly means that the adult child is still to honor the father and mother. As a 60-plus-year-old, I'm now to honor and still honor my older parents. That emphasis of an adult child honoring older parents has more to do with a social networking system that I didn't think about. A social networking system where we're all supposed to take care of the elderly or those who are no longer able to work and provide for themselves. This brings a whole new meaning and light to the commandment of honoring parents. How often have I heard, and maybe you've even said it once or twice, that as an adult you don't want to be a burden on your children? Well, then maybe we're not meeting the fourth commandment properly. It's not a burden. It's our responsibility as adult children to take care of you old people. I'm anticipating now, when I explain this to Alex, that when I get a little older, he's going to have to take care of me and his mother much better than he does now. Or maybe I did for my parents when I was in my 30s. And then I wonder, how good are we about even thinking of being intergenerational in our caring? You know, we don't want to be a burden. We also don't seem to want to live together because that wouldn't be okay. We want everybody to have their independence. But as I've been working my way through that fourth commandment these last couple of days, I'm wondering what it really is that God is saying to me and to us. That we're supposed to care for one another in rather clear terms, God says. Everyone should have time away from work. Everyone should be cared for, honored until the end of our lifetime. Everyone should be respected regardless of their position within the family and the community. Wow, the Ten Commandments really do now have a social justice meaning to them. Respect. It's not just a song sung by Aretha Franklin. It's the way God wants all of us to treat one another with respect. Wow, more to things to think about as this week progresses. Hey, I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Until then, please remember, wash your hands a couple times a day, 20 seconds at a time, and use hand lotion because otherwise they get all cracked and ugly, I'm told. And Joan has reminded me to put lotion on my hands because they're getting cracked and ugly looking. Remember also to wear your mask when you go out in public. If you're with family and family, stick close together. When you're not, maintain that physical 6-foot distance, please, and let's help stop the spread of coronavirus. And most importantly, remember, be careful out there.